Hello folks, this is Jim with Science Talk. I have an interesting story here I wish to share with you. Oldest human DNA from Africa reveals clues about a mysterious ancient culture. Burials from a cave in Morocco have yielded the oldest human DNA evidence yet from Africa, which now offers new insights into Stone Age migrations. The DNA samples come from one of the most ancient cemeteries in the world, the Grotte des Pigeons, near the village of Taferalt in northeast Morocco. Beginning around 15,000 years ago, a culture of hunter-gatherers buried their dead with animal horns and other adornments inside this cave. The name 20th century researchers gave to this culture, the Ibero-Maurusians, reflect the theory that the people who lived in this corner of North Africa were closely connected to Europe and perhaps migrated across the Mediterranean by boat or a land bridge from the Iberian Peninsula or Sicily. Ibero-Maurusian sites have been found across the Maghreb, the area between the Atlas Mountains that span Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and the Mediterranean Sea. Some archaeologists have argued that small blades from sites like the Grotte des Pigeons resemble the stone tools of the Gravettian culture, which was widespread across southern Europe during the Upper Paleolithic, which lasted approximately from 50,000 to 10,000 years ago. Today, North Africans have a large amount of European DNA, basically indicating a transference of genetic material between the two regions. However, the new DNA evidence uncovered tells perhaps a different story about the origins of the Ibero-Maurusians. During recent excavations led by the University of Oxford at the Grotte des Pigeons, archaeologists say the inner ear petrous bones, which is a good source to find DNA. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History in Jena, Germany, extracted ancient mitochondrial DNA. Now, mitochondrial DNA, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is inherited only from the maternal side. Only the mother will pass along mitochondrial DNA to her offspring, male or female. So they found mitochondrial DNA from 7 individuals, as well as nuclear DNA, which both parents contribute, and they found nuclear DNA from 5 of the remains. So I have a quote here from Marieke van de Woestdrecht, who is an archaeogeneticist at the Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History. She said that due to challenging conditions for DNA preservation, relatively few ancient genomes have been recovered from Africa, and none of them so far predate the introduction of agriculture in North Africa. Contrary to the theory that Europeans from Sicily or the Iberian Peninsula were buried at Grotte des Pigeons, the analysis revealed no genetic link to Southern Europe. That's interesting. Instead, the results, which were reported in the journal Science, the March 15th issue, show that about 2/3 of the Ibero-Maurusian DNA match closely with that of ancient Natufians, a later culture that existed in the Middle East, which suggests the Grotte des Pigeons people and the Natufians shared common ancestors from North Africa or the Middle East. About 1/3 of the Ibero-Maurusian DNA resembled the DNA of sub-Saharan Africans, which was perhaps inherited from more ancient ancestors or was contributed by contemporary Stone Age migrants, according to an accompanying news article in Science. The findings offer new evidence of early contacts between North Africa and the Near East and regions south of the Sahara Desert, which has long thought to be considered a major barrier to migration. Ancient DNA studies have increased in Europe over the past couple of decades, covering a record of human history stretching back 40,000 years. Many of the labs where scientists study ancient DNA are located in Europe, which is convenient. You're close to the study sites, and researchers have access to a wealth of well-preserved remains. The study of ancient African genomes has been sparser. The researchers of the new study wrote that African sites tend to have more challenging conditions for DNA preservation due to warmer temperatures, which tend to accelerate DNA decay. It was only in 2015 that researchers published the first African ancient genome from a 4,500-year-old human remains found in Ethiopia. Last year, scientists reported findings on ancient DNA from as early as 8,100 years ago, from human remains from southern and East Africa. The researchers further state and write that further DNA studies on additional Ibero-Maurusian sites will be critical and necessary to testing whether the evidence from the Grotte de Pigeon is representative of the Ibero-Maurusian gene pool. Like everything else in science, we find new evidence that then begs a whole new set of questions for which now further hypothesis testing to ascertain the answers to those questions is necessary. So this is interesting in that it's indicating, as opposed to contact with Southern Europe, perhaps there was contact more with the Middle East and Near East. It could very well turn out, and I'm just speculating here, that perhaps there was contact in both directions. And what the time frame of those was remains to be seen. But like everything else, it's very tantalizing evidence, tantalizing information that can open up clues to human migration from Africa to other regions. If you like this video, please share with your friends, colleagues, family members. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell. If you are already a patron on Patreon, I thank you for your support. If not, I hope you will consider becoming a patron on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Science Talk with Jim Massa. Thank you for your time.